Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hey, how's it going?
It's good, man. And we have Jason Wood. How's it going, Jason?
I'm good. Just hanging in there.
Hanging in there. In the pandemic, we were just discussing before. So Jason's been on before too. So if you guys want to go back, have you been on twice already or just once?
Twice.
Twice, yeah. And so if you guys want to go back and listen to Jason's podcast, I normally always have the athlete's name in the podcast title. So you could just search Jason Wood if you want, some more updates from him on just progressions, really. That's why I like doing these repeat episodes, is to see how things have changed for you and see what's up. So we're going to catch up with Jason in this episode. But man, we will let you give some background for people who may be just now introduced to you. So what do you do for a living and how do you train?
Yeah. So I work for a healthcare company. I do IT support. I actually work remote. I've been working remote for five or 6 years now. So my life has not shifted too much in the last couple of months. I still work from home. This is where I work all the time. So that's what I do. I've had my garage gym for a while, and I'm trying to think. I started working out in the garage about 3 years ago. Not long after that, hopped on the Garage Gym Athlete programming, and so I do. I enjoy a lot of strength and conditioning type stuff. So the programming here is great. It does a lot of what I want it to do. So lots of barbell, lots of kettlebell, dumbbells. I like all that stuff. And apparently, as we'll probably get into a little bit later, apparently I like running now. I never did before, but in the last since the beginning of this year, I've come to enjoy running.
I think that it's like an underlying. I mean, I don't have a master plan for making people like running, but I've heard this before from other athletes of maybe you don't like things that you are bad at, but if you get a little bit better at it, maybe you start to like it. So I'd love to hear that update, man. But let's, I guess we could kind of go, big picture first. So you've been, really consistent for a good amount of time. You've been a part of Garage Gym Athlete, and I'd love to hear what that's looked like over, the last year, 2 years for you of consistency, what's been good, what's been bad, and the results you've seen because of it.
Yeah. So when I kind of around the time I started doing the Garage Gym Athlete programming, I was looking to compete. So it's funny because lately you've had some, we'll say, negative things to say about powerlifting on the podcast. But I was when I first started, I was actually looking at trying out competing in powerlifting. And so I was running the strength track for a while, and I really enjoyed that, and cracked through a couple of different plateaus. I had been stuck on my squat at 320 for years. And then by the end of the last couple of cycles, I hit 375. So,
nice.
It was so super fun, very exciting, and determined also that I'm super squat dominant because my deadlift is only about 30 pounds heavier than my squat.
Nice.
I really enjoyed that. It was fun to get really strong. And so I was for a while I was focused on the strength track. I did a couple cycles of hard to kill, And then starting at the beginning of this year, both just for kind of taking some time and assessing where I was at with kind of my scoring and everything like that. I decided that I had a pretty hefty hole in my fitness regarding like my conditioning, and I actually switched over to Endure at the beginning of this year, and so I've been doing that since the beginning of the year, and so it's been good. I think sorry, I got distracted there for a second. That's kind of where I've gotten to enjoy running again. I'm running now, and someone, shoot, I can't remember who it was. A couple episodes ago on the podcast, they were talking about like movement meditation, and I think
Courtney Morris.
That really that, like, when that was said, I was like, this is what I've been enjoying about running. Like, I've been getting out there, like clearing my head. Like, there's just so much going on right now, and it's just good to kind of clear your thoughts and just kind of move for a while. So that's really been enjoyable.
Yeah, I kind of blame Jared that I started to like running as well. About 2 years ago, when we started tracking metric and stuff, he told me I needed to do more endurance stuff and that I should just start training for endurance. And I was like, no, heck no, I don't like running long distance and stuff like that. And now I love to bike, and I'm just switched to the Endure track. So yeah, I got Jedi mind tricked as well.
Yeah. Well, so the funny thing is, I was kind of thinking about like what I wanted to do, and I like having something to kind of train towards and move towards. So I was, that was what the powerlifting meets were for. And then as I kind of started thinking about moving towards endurance, I was like, well, I need to have something to do or to kind of strive for. And I discovered recently, I've lived in the house I live in now for about 3 years. And I just discovered that about 5 minutes out my door, there's like miles and miles of trails and dirt roads to run
on. Wow.
Yeah.
Who put these here?
So, I know. It's like, well, these have been here the whole time. I mean, it's really fun. And I think that was kind of the thing. I never liked running because I don't enjoy running on the roads. It's kind of boring. But man, you get out into the wild on the dirt trail, and it's quiet and calm, and there's no one around, and that's fantastic. So yeah, I've been doing that a lot, and so because of that, I started looking at trail races to do kind of as like things to strive towards. And as funny as it sounds, I've always wanted to go to. So I live in Arizona. And I've always wanted to go to Antelope Canyon, which is in northern Arizona. And because it's this really cool slot canyon. Look it up. You'll see the picture. You'll immediately know what it is. I found an ultra marathon that runs through Antelope Canyon. Nice. And then on the way back out, it goes along all of Horseshoe Bend, which is that really famous, the big curve in the Grand Canyon. So you run that whole thing too. So my brother and I shot my brother a message and I said, hey, you want to do this with me? Because I'm like, I'm not going to do a 50-mile race on my own. And he's like, it's 50 miles? I was like, yeah, man, we can do this. And he goes, all right, fine, I'm in.
Nice.
That's long.
So yeah, it is. It's, though, when you go and look at those ultra marathons, though, they're not they are long, but they're not as unreasonable as they sound at first blush, because I think we sat down and figured out the time cap is you have to hold like 17 or 18 minute miles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like, we're not going to this thing to, win it or, break a land speed record. We're going to do it to do the experience and just finish. So if that means we walk every couple of miles, we walk every couple of miles.
Well, yeah, I think what makes those events ridiculous sometimes isn't the distance. It is the competitors in those events where they're like, yeah, they ran, 50 miles in like 5 hours. And you're like, that's pretty impressive. I don't think I could do that. And then, but that's not why I'm doing events, like some of the events that I do. And it's not why you're doing it. You're not trying to be competitive. You're trying to push yourself in a new way and experience something different. And I think going in with that attitude also makes it more enjoyable, because you hear some people, they're looking to place in their age group, or they want to be like kind of competitive, but like, I mean, what's the cost of being competitive in a 50-mile like ultra marathon?
Right.
Like there's things to your joints and other problems you end up with if you want to be competitive in an ultra marathon. But that's a challenge, man. And talk about 180. Like it's like it's like I enticed you with heavy lifting, and then I bait and switched you with you want a big deadlift? Great. How about a marathon? And you're like, all right,
right.
So that's awesome.
Well, I mean, ultimately, like, it would be cool. I think it'd be cool to be able to have because my kind of thought is I'm thinking about well-rounded. Like, it was cool getting really strong, and I still want to get stronger, but I just think it'd be really cool to be able to say, like, I have the strength to pull a 400-pound deadlift, but I also have the endurance to be able to make it to get through a 50-mile ultra marathon.
Yeah. And there's no like, this is why I used to enjoy CrossFit, because I thought CrossFit was going to kind of fill that void for that kind of athlete, but it doesn't. It's like we have to make the concurrent training games. Like that's what we would have to do to highlight how awesome it is for people to do things like what you just said, like this massive deadlift plus a 50-mile. Like we'd have to make our own format for that, for like, the concurrent. I just made that up. I love it. Concurrent training games. Like
there you go.
Write that down.
There you go.
So
right. Because we're definitely going to be putting more large group events on the calendar in the next year, Jared.
Yeah, I'm super glad that that's what my business is completely revolved around, right? Is these large events and the competitions. Good point. But no, I think that's awesome, man. And there's not a proving grounds for it or anything. I think it's just an awesome feat for you to accomplish as a human. I think that's a very noble goal, because I don't hate powerlifting. I just kind of like, it's the community. Like, I'm going to get strong at all costs. I don't care what it does to my health or my bones, or like, that's what irritates me sometimes, is because I don't want any of our athletes to be like, I got that deadlift, but my back won't be right for a month. It's like, well, that's not what I wanted for you. Like I want everyone to be healthy and move. So have you, I'm just curious, because that's you're not normal. And I say that in the best way, to like to be able to have like that kind of mentality. So for people who are only, because there are a lot of people in our community only chasing a strength metric, they love that. Like, did you struggle with this? Like, maybe setting your sights on an endurance-based goal a little bit more, like having doubts, or like thinking, I don't know if, did you have any struggles kind of shifting goals like that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have. I mean, when we went through Fit Week, a couple of weeks ago, and I wouldn't say I got after Fit Week, but I kind of half-heartedly tested a few things, and my squat is down a little bit. I'm not at 375 right now because I haven't been training it as hard. Same with deadlift, it's down a reasonable percentage, which I kind of expected that. Like, I knew going into this whole thing, like, that was probably going to happen, because I'd been training strength so focused for so long. And so I kind of had realistic expectations about it, knowing that was coming. But I also knew that my endurance was a big hole in my fitness. And I felt like I was at a place where I was strong enough that I was okay with losing a little bit of that strength if it meant bringing up my endurance. And so, there are definitely days I've found that. So I've been doing, for the most part, Saturdays. I don't do the Meet Yourself Saturday workouts. I do a long run, because I'm trying to just build some volume, because I'm not about to try to like go into a 50-mile race cold and be like, I've never run more than 10 miles in a single go.
Yeah,
it'll be great.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, no problem. But so, I found that I kind of got a cycle on long runs where week 1 goes well and I feel great. Week 2, it crushes me. Week 3, I'm back on a week where I feel great. So it's kind of it's been an every other week kind of thing. And so that week that just crushes me and I'm like, why am I doing this? You know, I'm 8 miles in and I'm just questioning everything. I'm like, man, I should just switch back to strength. I like that. There was no question in my mind there. You know, I could, that was always great. But I think this is kind of one of those things where I think part of the journey is a part of, it's not just an end goal, it's a journey goal. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into getting to this place. And so because of that, I have, you know, the mental toughness that comes from picking something that I'm like, this is going to take me at least a year to get to, you know, and then sticking with that and really holding on for that whole year, is important to me.
And I know, I mean, that's basically, I've been on the more or less the same journey, just a different timeline. You know, I got to some really great strength numbers that I was really proud of, but then I realized my aerobic fitness, while I could do some things like I had fast mile times or whatever, but anything beyond that 6-minute domain, I was like, it was just bad. So I knew I had a huge aerobic hole. I've worked the last several years on fixing it, and I have to some degree. But what's cool is like the strength numbers just rebound so fast. Like, you know, once you've been there, it's like, it's easy to get back. It's harder to build up to it. It's harder to build up to new PRs. But if you have a really like high deadlift or squat and you take a cycle off and you're not as focused on it and you really improve your aerobic fitness and you still maintained like 90% of that, I think that's a huge win. But then if you're like, I want to go back strength, it's not going to take 12 weeks to get back to where you were. It's probably take like 4 weeks of just like seeing that heavy stimulus. And then it's like, boom, it's back. And then it's really cool. And I think that should be comforting for a lot of athletes to know is like strength rebounds pretty fast, unless you're doing nothing. I've never experienced that. Don't know anybody. Like if like I haven't done anything in 2 years, I have no idea what happens to you when you come back. But as far as what you're doing and what I've been doing, it does bounce back pretty fast. So that's good to know. Now, what else, man? Like what did you learn on the strength track, having spent a lot of time on there, that I guess you could contrast with the endure track?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of parallels in that. I mean, both are just real. Both tracks are they're a grind, just in different ways. You know, there were definitely days where we were doing. You know, I remember there was a season where we did one cycle of it was like all the cluster stuff on the strength track, and I mean, those were, you know, that's high reps, high weight, and you know, you get to that like 8th squat at 89 or 85%, and you're like, you got to grind through it. You know, it's kind of the same thing with endure. You know, you get to the end of a long run or you get to the end of an interval session, and that last interval or that last mile it's just a grind. You got to just push through it because you got to get it done. And it's just, you know, they're just accomplishing different goals.
And I would say like that's, you know, very true of those two tracks. They are like Hard to Kill is kind of like we're trying to balance a lot over every 30-day time period, but endure and strength are very similar in the fact that they have a very concrete goal, you know, over a 12-week time period. And so you're going to see a lot of a certain type of training. And so just looking at it as a grind in a different way, as you described it, I think is not how everyone would see it, but I think that's awesome. That's how you've the perspective you have on it.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go, you know, right now to the current time frame, because I know a lot of people are probably just juggling this. You so probably more so than a lot of people, because you have 5 kids, you're already a work from home pro. Like, what are the tips on juggling that right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is just really creating routine, and finding what works for you. There's, you know, I've actually been sending out some tips and tricks to some of my coworkers. A lot of my coworkers are not, they were office employees, but now are working from home for this period of time. And a lot of them have said, like, man, I'm really struggling to focus, or, I just can't kind of find that groove that I used to have at the office. And I said, well, you got to remember, when you're at the office, you're going to and from your house and your office. So you're not in the same geographic location all of the time, and being in that same geographic location all the time is really draining mentally. You get stir crazy, and so a lot of times I will try and schedule into my day 1 or 2 times a day where I just go walk around the block, just get outside, get some sun, get away from the desk, because when you're in the office, you're doing that anyways, but at home, you don't feel as motivated to do that because there's not as much reason to. So yeah, getting outside, just moving. I've instituted a personal policy where I have I call it I pay the office tax. Anytime I walk into my office, I have to do some sort of physical movement before I sit down.
Awesome.
So I pick a movement for the day. So usually it's something like 5 burpees or 5 push-ups, 10 squats, something like that. Every once in a while, I'll drag one of my kettlebells in here and, I'll do some swings or some presses or something. But usually it's just a body weight movement. And so it's just kind of a mini workout throughout the day, and by the end of the day, I've done 50 to 100 of whatever movement that is. It just kind of keeps the blood flowing and kind of helps you refocus your mind when you kind of move in and out of the office. So I'm trying to think what else. I think the other thing that I've found really helpful is I try to, every morning when I come into my office and I sit down at the desk, I have there's a mindfulness app called Oak. And I run through like a 10-minute mindfulness meditation just to kind of disconnect from the family life I just left and then refocus my mind so that I can kind of focus in on work. And depending on the day, if it's a day where I'm struggling mentally and I'm struggling to focus, I'll do that again after lunch, just to kind of help clear my mind and kind of bring it back around to where it needs to be.
That's awesome. I think it's funny. I had an athlete reach out to me on Instagram because he knew I worked from home, and he's like, man, what's your best advice for I'm working from home now. This is really new for me. Like, what's your best advice? Like, what do you do? Like to keep, he's like, cause I'm just like going crazy. And I was just like, push-ups help. And that's basically like one of my main tips was like, you just got to move. Like, you just got to keep moving. I think that's awesome that you've kind of found the same thing. And I think, meditation and like switching tasks, like there's a lot of science behind what you're talking about. And I haven't heard of that app, but I'll definitely look into it. I think that's some really solid advice, man. Definitely a pro we're talking to right now.
Like I said, I've been doing it for about 6 years, so I've kind of figured out a few things that work well for me. And so, yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, before we get to the questions that we want updates on for hardest workout and stuff like that, is there anything else going on that I may have missed or that you want to highlight?
That's about it. I mean, big focus, big shift in focus, obviously from strength to endurance.
Yeah.
Life is crazy around here. We do what we can. Some days go well. Some days there are definitely days where I get to do my workout when I normally do my workout. There are other days where I look at the day and schedule and I just pick a handful of things and I do them. Like I've literally taken a strength workout from like the strength, not the strength track, but the enduro track has like strength days.
Yeah.
And I'll just break it up across the entire day. Like,
nice.
10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, go out, do the squats or do one set of rounds and then I'll come back, just because I know that like with all the school stuff and taking care of food and everything, and just the way that life is crazy right now, sometimes you just got to make it work with what I can.
Yeah, I did something similar when I was in the military. I'd work out 2 or 3 times a day, and people always thought that sounded crazy, but I'm like, no. I'm basically doing one workout that most people would do in an hour. I'm breaking into like 3 20-minute workouts because of how crazy my schedule was. I'd like try to do something real quick in the morning that was part of the program, and then at lunch, and then at night. That way I was never committed for any time period for too long, being taken away from what I needed to do. But yeah, I think that's another great tip. I think that's really cool. All right, man.
That's one of the advantages to having the garage, the gym in my garage. Like
I can do it.
I can do any of that kind of stuff whenever I feel like it.
Now, what's the hardest workout you've ever done?
So it's funny. We've talked about this a number of times, and I can't believe I've never thought of this until this time around. But I think maybe doing endurance track reminded me of it. So a number of years ago, back right after my wife and I got married, my wife was much more of a runner at the time than I was, and she talked me into doing a couple of half marathons. But there was a half marathon here in Tucson that went up Mount Lemmon. So he started at, I think he started at 4,000 feet. And by the time you were done, you were at 9,500 feet or 9,000 feet. So it was like a 4,000 to 5,000 foot gain half marathon.
Awful.
A huge asterisk to the marathon. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was insane. It was really hard. I can't believe I never thought of that when we've talked about this in the past, but
yeah,
that would probably be one of the hardest things I've ever done.
I wonder if that just pops up because, people want to sign up for marathons and half marathons. There are like these websites you can go to just find out local races. I wonder how many people like signed up for that one on accident. Like,
there's going to be some great views.
Yeah, I've been doing a half marathon. I've been doing a half marathon training plan. I want to do my half marathon. Then they get there and they're like, "Oh wow, this is bad."
Well, yeah. So, and the funny thing about that race was they had a marathon option too to start. So the half marathon started halfway up the mountain. The marathon started at the base, which was you start at like 2,000 feet and you go to 9,000 feet.
That sounds. I don't know. I sound a little bit. I'm a little bit interested, to be honest. Joe, maybe when you get back from.
Dude, I already did the Cirque Series race. Those are really cool, but it's only like 7 miles. I mean, I guess it's basically the same thing, and you start at a higher elevation, but that elevation kicks your butt.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But unfortunately, they don't run that one anymore, Jared. I think the race it folded a couple years ago.
Well, I mean, the mountain is there, so nothing's really stopping me.
This is like the Everest thing. Like, why am I going to pay $2,000 to climb Everest if I can just go find a mountain?
Exactly. Saves me an entry fee.
There you go.
All right. So, in your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
Man, I think right now for me, what I'm finding is just staying, finding a long-term goal, like in this case, the ultra marathon, and really sticking to it, even when it's hard. Just there's a lot to be said for sticking with something, especially in a culture where people, I think are just in general, it's easy to say, oh, it's just too hard. Just go do something else. Or, like, oh, you're not enjoying that? Like, go find something you enjoy. And I think there's something to remember that, like, yeah, life is great. Life is enjoyable and we should enjoy our lives, but there are going to be days that are hard, and you can't just skip the hard days. Like, they're important. They're part of life too. And, so I think that's kind of what I'm learning right now.
That's awesome. Now, if you could only have, mental toughness. I almost skipped it.
That was mental toughness.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I didn't skip it. Then I'm going to go to the equipment. Has your answer changed on the equipment? Only one piece of equipment, rest of your life. Are you going to say trail running shoes?
I was going to say, I know in the past I've said kettlebell because I feel like barbell is a cop-out answer because it's a system, not a single piece of equipment. But man, I don't know. Yeah, having a pair of trail shoes, because I've definitely run some of the trails in my regular road shoes, and those are not meant for running on trails.
Yeah. I've actually learned this too, because I wasn't a big like having a pair of running shoes guy. Like, I always just kind of had like a versatile shoe, and so I got some like legitimate running shoes, and I found out there is absolutely no stability left or right in like a true running shoe. Like, if you want to like turn a little bit, you're basically going to roll your ankle every time. And trail running shoes make a huge difference.
Yeah, and the grip, the soles are so different in terms of what they can hold on to and run through without
All right,
yeah,
man.
I don't know. Man, I'm having a hard time. I'm going to say trail at this point in my life. I'm going to say trail running shoes.
I love it. Hopefully I didn't
Need
feed you
those.
the answer too much.
No,
All right,
you're good.
waiting.
Well, I don't know, Joe, any questions?
There's any crazy pieces of equipment that you want to get to your in your gym?
Anything you need?
Well, so I would really like to add. I'd like to add a bike because of the amount of like Zone 2 talk that's been going on around the forums lately.
Yeah.
I think it would be really nice if I could like every once in a while just hop out to the garage and like pedal. It's like pedaling in Zone 2 is kind of the easiest, like from what I've seen everybody talking about, it's kind of the easiest way to like get to Zone 2 and then like maintain it for a long period of time.
It is way easier.
Yeah, running is you have to change so much when you're running. Like, and this is just true of it. It might not be true of like an elite runner, but I know with me, like I can start off kind of fast in Zone 2, and then I have to throttle down, and then eventually you find some spot and it's pretty slow or whatever, and then you might even have to throttle down after a certain amount of time. But yeah, on the bike erg that I have, like it can be a little bit harder to get there at first than running. Like running, I can just like start and I'm like Zone 3, but and then I have to like bring it back. But the bike, I kind of have to like get things going, find it, then once I get in Zone 2, it's a little bit easier to stay there for sure. I think that's very, very true.
Yeah, and I think that would be, for me, that would be really beneficial to be able to hit some longer easy, not easier, but like just to stay in Zone 2 consistently for a long period of time would be good as I'm trying to build a bigger aerobic base.
It'll also help during Arizona summers.
That's true too, because it's going to be blazing hot here in a couple months for me to be out running.
When is this race? I was I missed the date.
Oh, it's I think it's in March next year. I don't think they've actually scheduled it for next year yet. It was but it was in mid-March this year. So I'm assuming it's mid-March next year.
Okay. Yeah, you said keeping up, to a goal for a year. I figured it was kind of like that kind of time frame, but I was just curious. Or I could put it in my notes, man. But you have a lot of experience and, strength track, endurance track, like just being a part of our community for a long time. What is your best advice for all the garage gym athletes out there who are listening to this?
I mean, I don't know. This hasn't really changed at all. Just stick with it. Consistency is king. And there's, you can find the greatest program in the world, but if you don't stick with it, it's not going to do you any good. If you don't hold to it and actually do the program, then what's the point in having the most scientifically proven program if you're not going to do it? So I think, finding the thing that you can just do and stick with it is really, really important. Both from a physical and a mental standpoint, it's just good to commit. Yeah.
So I have a question that kind of plays off that. What keeps you around? What keeps you doing garage gym athlete training?
Gifts.
Gifts.
What's that?
The gifts.
The gifts. Yeah. The gifts on Facebook. Really a lot of it is it is the community. The garage gym athlete community on Facebook is fantastic. I love it. It's literally one of the few reasons I even use Facebook. There's a couple. There's a couple of communities that I belong to on Facebook, and that's the only reason I get on there anymore. Is just to see what everybody else is doing and how things are going. So there's just a lot of support. I think both from the community. I think you guys are really involved in the community as well. So it's not like there's a man behind the curtain doing all the work. Like you guys are out there chatting with everybody, checking in. Joking, throwing out goofy gifts as well. Having deep nerd dives on Futurama.
Hey, I'm there for that any day.
Yeah, I know.
Futurama and fantasy books.
So
it's
I think it's the community is real. It's not like a front or no one's on there like trying to pretend they're something they're not. And I just enjoy the community. I think the people are great, and we're all there for similar purpose, which is just to, we all recognize that being fit is important to our lives, and we're not like, we're not all a bunch of Instagram fitness influencers who are trying to like show off that we're fit. We're just like enjoying it because it's making our lives more enjoyable. And I think, I think the programming itself keeps me going too. Just there's variety. I know everybody talks about, everybody's always joking during the last week about switching tracks and fear of missing out. I don't have that because I feel like you can always switch when you want to, but I think there's enough variety in all of the tracks, both within each track and then also between the tracks, to keep you just interested all of the time. There's always something cool to do. There's always something that you can look at and say, I want to improve this. And there's a program that's going to do that for you, And so, that's really what keeps me around.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you being around. I appreciate your time today. I don't know if this is easy to squeeze in or hard for you, in the middle of a work day. Either way, I appreciate it, man. And thanks for keeping Joe on his toes in the Facebook community, because not many can. And I appreciate it, man. Thanks again for your time and for being a Garage Gym Athlete. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.